seconds before it actually kicks in.
You've got to fight for what you want, for all that you believe. It's right to fight for what we want, to live the way we please. As long as we have done our best, then no one can do more.
Hello there, welcome to the Flesh and Blood podcast. I'm a little bit dazed and confused this evening, which is only right and proper. And with me, we have Brian.
Hello.
Eddie.
Oh.
Alistair.
Hello.
And our very special guest for this evening is Mr. Toby Haydoke.
Hello, I hope I'm coming in loud and clear. I don't have a proper mic hooked up.
No, you're absolutely fine, thank you. Toby's here because tonight we reach Quatermass and the pit. And Toby knows about Quatermass a lot more than any of us do. And our reviews are normally very light-hearted and we hardly touch on anything. But hopefully having Toby here will ground us a little bit.
Well,
That's the plan.
It's my favourite piece of television, so you may have to rein me in.
Oh, that's funny. My favourite piece of science fiction TV is next week with the John Mills Quatermass.
Missed next week. I never saw it.
Did you not see next week?
No.
Oh my word!
Yes.
I think it's
Went out
repeated.
before my time.
I think it's repeated a week Monday.
Ah, good.
Okay, fair enough. So, let's get down to the usual business. How have people's weeks been? Toby, you're our guest. How's your week been?
My week has it's been all right. I've been trying to balance doing things like the garden and walking the dog, which are the things that is supposed to make our lives good and healthy and all of that. With I'm gearing up for a job that I'm looking forward to doing. And I've just finished quite an epic podcast, which I released the other day just for my patrons. That was something I thought I'd be able to polish off in a day, and actually took me about 3.5 weeks.
Was that the AMA?
No, the scripts one.
Oh, yes. For those you should know by now, we've plugged it enough. But Toby's got a series of podcasts. He has Happier Times and Places, in which he gets a friend to nominate what they like about a particular Doctor Who story, and he basically does a commentary. Why am I saying this when you should be saying all this?
Well, I don't know. It sounds like an endorsement if somebody else says it, whereas it sounds like an awful plug if I say it, doesn't it?
I suppose so, yeah. But anyway, it's damn good. We just had the AMA out this afternoon, which reminded me of a joke, which we'll try and do during the Quatermass and the Pit thing. And also, a couple of days ago, a piece on the scripts leading up to the pilot of Doctor Who.
On the 4 scripts before the pilot script that was made as the pilot. And as we know, the pilot script then changed for the broadcast episode. And so my early podcast, which I thought covered everything, sort of did the differences between the pilot and the broadcast, which I thought was fascinating. But I kept alluding to, because I knew there were earlier versions, but I'd not managed to get my hands on them. And then people have been very kind. So I was confronted with the 4 scripts leading up to what became the pilot. And what Doctor Who could have been is fascinating.
No, and what got me about this was that, to be fair, just looking at the differences between 4 scripts, it could be a very dry subject, difficult to listen to. You made it anything but. You made it really interesting. Calling out Ian's twattery, I think, was the big one.
I mean, Ian is an absolute art.
And he seems obsessed about stolen police boxes.
Yeah, they really have a go at Doctor Who as Doctor Who introduces themselves. I am Doctor Who, but yeah, he's bang on that. This police box, I'm going to tell them you've got to stop nicking police boxes. But that's almost the least of Ian's twattery.
Oh God, yes.
He's really horrible to Barbara. I mean, he's not called Ian and she's not called Barbara, but that's another thing. But yeah, and I wanted to do it as a sort of. I just thought, well, I've got the scripts. I can just quickly summarise them and sort of whack this out very quickly as a podcast. And as I say, it took me a bit longer than that, but I'm pleased it's out now.
And also, I mean, I don't know if you're going to do this as a season 1 extra for the Blu-ray sets, but you discovered the identity of Kenneth Williams' boy.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because, again, this was for stuff that's just for the people who go on my Patreon, without whom, and all of that. But I'm so pleased with the progress I've made with identifying all the Coal Hill school children that I think for the anniversary in November, I'll release a podcast that goes out to everyone, because I've pretty much got the life story of all of the Coal Hill school children extras apart from one. So I've got between now and November to find Mavis Ransom.
You're not right, are you? Let's just face facts here.
Oh, what I love about it was I thought I'd done a pretty good job because I found them all apart from 2. And I basically said, yeah, and if you can find an actor called Richard Wilson that isn't the Richard Wilson that we know, good luck to you.
2 L's.
And one of, I mean, I don't have a massive amount of patrons, but one of the small but very... a kind bunch of people that are my patrons dropped me a line and went, I actually, he's a friend, his wife's a friend of the family. And this patron is also somebody who happened to have, I've met. I bumped into him once. I thought he's a policeman. I thought he was stopping me. And it was my last gig before Christmas. I was just going home. This guy got out of the police car and said, excuse me. And I was like, I've just finished work for Christmas. Don't arrest me. and he said, I just want to say I really like your extras on Doctor Who DVDs. And I was like, what? Okay, thanks. And he's one of my patrons, and he happens to know the family of the Kenneth Williams schoolboy extra, who was one of the 2 that I'd not been able to find. So if I hadn't done that podcast just for patrons and hadn't mentioned I can't find, I've not found that person, and he hadn't listened, and that that wouldn't have happened. So that's why you've got to keep doing this stuff, because you never know.
No, it's
so where does the line get drawn between fan and stalker?
I think I may have stepped up. Perhaps that's why this policeman's keeping an eye on me.
There you go.
Oh dear. That was Toby's week. Alistair, how's your week been?
It's been all right. I finished mixing another episode of Undiscovered Country, this film we did in lockdown last year. So 2 of 5, written by Simon Messingham. So
I know him.
Yes, he of the Teen Pupil.
Yes.
So we finished that. I finished that. So Mark, who's the editor, is doing the next one. So yes.
So good week.
So that's been my that's been my week. A friend of mine setting up a production company down here, a converted theatre space. So he wants me to be part of that. So I was happily painting the stage today. Yeah, it's good to get out of the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Paint me back. Yeah.
And you'd need to wear a mask to paint something anyway. Depending how you're doing it.
A mask to paint. Don't be careful how you say that. Yes.
Yes. Oh, well, quick hello to chat. Hello, Sweetie Gamer, who is lurking apparently. Eddie, how's your week been?
Good. I'm going to sound as if I'm stalking Toby, because my week kind of similar to his. So I was in the garden. We were planting some new trees we got, walking the dog. That was pretty much it, but it was good. And it's a bank holiday weekend, so I'm off until Tuesday. So,
is it?
Yeah, all good. Yes.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Okay, fair enough. Brian, have you had a week?
I've had a week. It's been rainy. There's been work.
Mm-hmm.
My character fell to the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
Got a haircut.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a week.
It's a very smart haircut. But fair dues, mate.
It's much better.
Fair dues.
I feel much lighter.
So, we're going to have an update on the Fence saga.
Oh, God.
If you'll remember, my fence is blowing in, and I called the landlords, and they came and they knocked my wall down. And then I got a thing saying they'll be around on the 27th. And I wasn't sure for what. They didn't turn up. So I phoned them, and I got... Apparently, if I'm lucky, I'll get a replacement wall and a replacement fence. However, she said they'd call me back in 48 hours, and they didn't. And now I think I've probably got to wait till either Monday or Tuesday to see if they'll call me back. Which they won't. So that's the Fence saga. We have ongoing sagas here, Toby. It's I say we.
You?
Season up.
You.
It's
Yeah.
me. Yeah,
It's just you.
my life is a saga. I need a Greek chorus. That's what I need. Follow me around. Right. So, yes, let's do this. Why not? After all, I've got to work out what I'm looking for. And now, from the worlds of BBC Television's Doctor Who, it's Quatermass. Yes, that was the wrong one. Oh dear.
Presented with such panache.
It wouldn't be the same if it went right. It just wouldn't be. Why did I say from the world's BBC Television's Doctor Who? Well, Quatermass is... He's been mentioned a good couple of times. Remembrance of the Daleks, for example, and, of course, the Christmas Invasion with the British Experimental Rocket Group. And it's certainly around the time of Remembrance of the Daleks and... going forward through into the new adventures, Quatermass was basically real in the Doctor Who universe. Those adventures happened, just happened before the Doctor turned up. And I quite like that. And of course, the televisual version was Professor Nightshade. So, yes, there we go. Useless information. So, Quatermass and the Pit. We watched both the TV and the film versions. The film version is an excellent summary, if you like, of the full Quatermass and the Pit. But it's a brilliant job. It holds up superbly. I've always said that about Quatermass and the Pit and the two Dalek films. As the way they've pared down the 6 or 7 part stories into, 90 minutes of that? Brilliant pieces of work, quite frankly. The fourth Professor Quatermass and his plucky girl assistant Colonel Breen, his friend Matthew Rooney's got a bit of a problem, you see. There's digging work going on in Knightsbridge. And the skull has been found. And so Professor Rooney's there and he wants... he needs more time, so he asks Quatermass for a bit of help. And so Quatermass gets involved. Unfortunately, they work out that this skull is 5 million years old. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Thank you.
Rehearsed.
Yeah. Ah, Quatermass and the Pit. This is the one everybody remembers. This is the one that cleared pubs, apparently, didn't it? Is that apocryphal, do you know?
No, there were stories at the time sort of saying about, the Electricity Board noticed there was a surge immediately after the episodes finished because people, then started...
Cup of tea or whatever.
And there was a report that Hereford County Council tried to delay their council meeting so that councillors did not miss the final instalment of Quatermass and the Pit. That motion was not carried, sadly. Otherwise, that would have been a great story. But so there was, it was certainly the stories abroad at the time were very much that it was appointment viewing. Yeah.
Fair enough. Because you hear these stories and you think, really? Is that apocryphal? Pubs cleared, etc. Fair enough.
I think it was certainly more impactful than necessary. I mean, funny enough, one of the reports about Doctor Who early on, when they're investigating sci-fi, their conclusion about Quatermass is that what was it? More people appreciated it than watched it. So actually, its impact was not necessarily in terms of viewing figures per se as much. Although they were still pretty damn good, but actually it was more the impact they made in the fact that everybody talked about it and that it was on everybody's lips rather than it was record-breaking viewing figures or anything like that.
Okay, so you say this is... Sorry, Alistair, please.
No, I was going to say, so that was why it was called the Doctor Who Appreciation Society then. Nobody actually watched it, they just talked about it.
No. I mean, when they were building up to do Doctor Who, that was what their report on previous science fiction was, that more people appreciated it than what.
Well, you said it's your favourite piece of TV. So why? What is it about Quatermass and the Pit that gets you in your gut?
I think so much of stuff that I'd read about, because I'm from before a time when you could just get things on video and DVD and things. I read all these things like Time Screen and all these things where this stuff was written up as though it was amazing. And Quatermass had always been spoken of in hallowed terms in our house, because my mum, who's not a science fiction fan at all, my mum had remembered it, and I think my older brothers had seen the movie of Quatermass and the Pit, and it was sort of seen as a bit more grown up than Doctor Who. But then most stuff that I then watched could never live up to my imagination of it. So I imagined I would, when Quatermass and the Pit came out on an edited together 3-hour video, BBC video with an intermission card in the middle, but no, not split into episodes. I thought it would probably be a bit of a disappointment, like most other stuff, including most Doctor Who. I'd read the Target novels, and then I watched the reality, and it took me a while to learn to love all that stuff again, and to love it for what it was rather than for my failed imagination. But I didn't know the plot of Quatermass, so that was slightly different. And I watched this Quatermass and the Pit, and I just thought it was amazing, because the quality of the production, seeing as it preceded Doctor Who, because of course it was a prestige drama production, so its production values are huge. And a brilliant thing happened was that I was watching it, and my mum walked in, and I'd been watching it for a couple of hours at this point, and she went, "Oh, I think I remember this. This is where the gravel moves." And I was like, "Oh, she's probably confusing it with Doom Watch, because I know she'd watched Doom." And I said, "Yeah, you're probably confusing it with," and the guy hits the deck and the gravel starts to move, and it's like, wow, if that has implanted itself in my mother's mind. And she hasn't seen this for 30 years, and she's not a TV fan or a sci-fi fan. This is pretty impressive. And it was like a sort of raced memory in her head, appropriately. And then I remember watching, because I watched it over and over again, and then my brother, who, of an age to sort of poo-poo everything, but is a scientist, and at the ending, he went, "Wow, that's a really clever ending, the way that the ending makes sense scientifically and magically." So, and I've always, I think, yes, when it's got the approval of other people, I've felt slightly better about it. I don't value my own opinion. And it was just so much better than I could have imagined. I was astonished at how clever the plotting is, the synthesizing the science fiction and the horror elements with the social commentary, but also within a drama that manages to be a sort of mainstream drama, as it were, that sort of gripped the nation, but to have all those the horror and sci-fi tropes that it uses so well, but in a really intelligent, scientifically plausible script that also has something to say about the human condition. And it's a fantastic production too, with a brilliant cast. So I think it just does everything brilliantly.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with that. I was going to ask the boys, because every week we've looked at it. What was the theme or Neil's concern that he put forward in this series? You've had fear of the outsides, haven't you? The Russians and missiles and science. So what was this one?
Natural selection as well. So it's the whole thing around. So it was happening back to the war, and also the actual bombing during the war as well. So I mean, some of the actual. I take it some of the actual scenes that were shown at the end when London is under siege.
That was Blitz
That was
footage.
in Blitz.
Yep.
Yeah.
No. What about racism? Well, what about racism? I'm fine, thank you very much.
I'm not a fan.
No.
I can
With
honestly
ice.
say I'm not a fan.
Voting no.
I mean, it gets mentioned at the start, riots in Birmingham.
Yes,
on the
of
TV
course,
version.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there's a fascinating piece called The Neil Memoirs, which I think was originally on Radio 4.
Yeah.
Talking to Nigel Neal. And it was done parts interview, parts drama, with Andrew Keir from the movie version, Hammer movie version of Quatermass and the Pit, reprising his role as Quatermass. set just before next week's Quatermass. But there's a lot answered in there, and I recommend you dig it out. So, I mean, Brian,
Yes.
You had problems with some of the earlier Quatermasses because they were so old. How do you
Yes.
find this one?
I actually love Quatermass in the Pit. It's one of my favorite science fiction stories ever.
Fair dues.
I mean, it ticks a lot of my boxes on this. Let's see. The fact that they start in on what's become known as ancient alien theory, ancient astronaut theory, decades before even von Däniken wrote his book. It just blows my mind that this stuff has been going on that long.
To whom we owe our human condition.
Yes, exactly. We owe it to a bunch of insects in the movie, which, if it's canon in Doctor Who, kind of, yeah.
Possibly.
But they aren't ice insects from Mars.
They don't have to be icy. Remember, we're talking 5 million years ago.
It's still ice warriors on Mars. Come on.
Oh dear. But the Mars back then must have been a different. Am I having this conversation with you?
Yes, totally.
Right.
This is much like when we role play and the conversations
it's not going to happen, Brian. It's not going to happen. We've got too many people here. Eddie, save me from the American person, please.
Well, I really enjoyed this. So I've never seen the TV show, the TV series before. So that was a new experience for me. I've seen the Hammer horror, the Hammer film countless times. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's another one. It was a regular BBC Two late at night Saturdays. That was part of that cycle of you would get your Hammer film, you would get your Universal Studios horror film. The TV show is fascinating because obviously you can see the progression from the initial Quatermasses. There's been budget, it's higher production values, but there's still a lot of what it draws you out into the horror for it is explanation. It's discussed, it's seen off camera, it's discussed. Like the soldier sees the creature walking through the wall, you don't see that. And again, one of the biggest things that you've got in terms of horror is the imagination, and it's the way it's acted. I thought it was fascinating. It was of its time, but actually really, really good. I possibly will get excommunicated for this. I prefer the Hammer film, and I think that's just because culturally I've been raised with it. And like you said, it was I watched the TV series first, and then the Hammer film takes 3 hours of 35 minute episodes and condenses it to 90 minutes. So that was like so I watched that before coming on here because it's like those notes you get when you're studying. You get the books that give you the summary in terms of how to pass the exam. Cliff notes. That's the words I'm looking for. But I love the Hammer film. The TV show was great as well. But my limited intelligence probably was side with the Hammer film because again it's part of my childhood.
My heart has to go with the Hammer film as well.
I mean, if you'd have said that about one of the 2 previous films, I might have questioned you. With our little terrier boy, Mr. Donlevy. Yes, so you touched on it. Going back to the Quatermass experiment, Quatermass 2, and now the Pit, can you see it's a story of how television has developed?
Yeah.
If you watch them. Was Quatermass 2, you said it was Quatermass and Pit was a premiere drama. Was Quatermass 2 a similar thing?
Well, I mean, if you look at the amount of pre-filming they had on Quatermass 2, it was they were big budget productions in terms, and the cast lists of TV shows weren't necessarily quite.
That reminds me.
But actually, Quatermass 2, interestingly, gets very little pre-publicity, and sort of went by without. I mean, it was certainly noticed and commented upon, but seeing as the experiment has been so successful, it really does hit its apex with you get the sense with Quatermass 2 that it's slightly compromised for various reasons. A relative of Nigel Neal died when he was writing it. He didn't even keep any of his notes from writing it. So it's interesting. I actually really like Quatermass 2.
So do I.
We're not here to discuss that, but it's and in terms of the complexity of his ideas, I think you mentioned the racism element. What I think is so clever about it is it doesn't do what a lot of science fiction laudably does and says racism is bad. And here we will say that using metaphor. What it actually does is something much more sophisticated. Is it says the potential for racism is within all of us because it is embedded within the very core of our being. And then the brilliance of that is it goes from primal times, and then if you take things back to primal times, you get things like legend and horror, and legend and horror are sort of scarier than silver hats and sci-fi. So it's a science fiction story told with the tropes. I love the bit where they wipe the bit off the hatch of the spaceship and they see a pentacle, because you suddenly go, because one, it's a great WTF moment, but also
it's not a pentacle.
A capitalistic sign.
Yeah.
Is scarier than some Gallifreyan hieroglyphics. There's something about something that is ancient,
something primal about it.
And that taps into Nigel Neal being from growing up in the Isle of Man and all the folklore that obviously beguiled him. So it's very clever because he tells a science fiction story with horror tropes basically, but also I'm very much, and as has been alluded to, he was looking around him and looking at building sites that might uncover unexploded bombs from a recent conflict that was all about Aryan supremacy and all of that. So what is held within the bomb that turns out not to be a bomb is a capsule containing the very genesis of what that recent conflict was born of. And as you say, there's a scene where, to give the actors time to get from one set to another, that is a close-up on a radio, and it tells, and the radio talks about a peace conference that's failed to reach an agenda, race riots in Birmingham. So even the sort of stuff that is a necessity born out of live television, he loads it with the subtext. It's no accident one of the workmen in the first scene is black. Black actors were very rare on television in those days. In fact, one of the sobering things reading a lot of the paperwork is it says in the dressing room allocation, that actor Lionel Ngarkane, forgive me if the pronunciation is wrong, Ngarkane I think is the surname of the actor. He went on to be a leading black South African theatre director in South Africa, but he was working in the UK. He got his own dressing room because it was 1958 and in a dressing room with lots of other. Now, it's not a racist production. Do you know what I mean? It's a production about anti-racism, and the reason they have a black man in the cast is to highlight that issue and to put a black face on television. And yet still the society at the time meant that black actor had to be in a different dressing room to everybody else. So that's it's extraordinary when you think about it. But you can't say that it's a production that does not have a refutation of racism at its very core, but it tries to look at it in an extremely intelligent way by saying, and also it's not just going, some aliens are Nazis, which loads of sci-fi has done. This is going, these aliens are insects, and insects cleanse their hives of what they see as mutations. So you go, but there's a scientific sort of reason for why these aliens would be. It's not just that they're racist aliens; it's that they have insect-like conformity, and to propagate their species in the way that they want, they get rid of what is different. What is racism? It is trying to get rid of what you see as different, which maybe works in an insect colony. It doesn't work for humanity. So what are we? Are we humans? Are we insects? Well, we're humans if we fight against what has been instilled in us by the insects, and it's so, that is so clever. Right? It would be good enough if it was just an anti-racist tract in a very good piece of science fiction, but the fact that it is so rigorously entrenched in the storytelling and in the themes, I think it's extraordinary. You could probably tell by the fact that I'm wanging on.
I could carry on listening, quite frankly. See, this is the level of discussion I was hoping you would bring to tonight, quite frankly. Alistair, do you remember this at all?
I remember it. I mean, not obviously when it went out originally, but I remember it, and I do remember the film, and I guess I sort of prefer the film just because
okay,
that's about it, really. I don't have any intelligent remarks to make about it.
I don't think you can after Toby.
I've been eclipsed.
No, how do you follow that?
No, I mean,
Yeah.
how do you follow that? Quite
I'm kind of glad I went before Toby because
I'll bear that in mind in the ordering next time.
Yes,
Give you a
yes,
chance
yes.
to say something. before.
I'll do the warm up, and then Toby can finish off. Yes.
Actually, I've got a question for Toby. It's about casting. I'm probably being very daft here, but there is Quatermass 2, both the TV and the film version. There's the old man who's the foreman, and he's the one who in the pipe room gets on the phone and say, "Yes, we're coming out."
Yeah.
Yep. Is that the same actor?
In Quatermass 2, in both Quatermass 2s, yes. He's also in Quatermass and the Pit.
I was about to ask. He's the foreman
Yeah.
at the start of Quatermass and the Pit.
Yeah, so he's having had a major part in both TV and film Quatermass 2. He's then got about 3 lines in the TV version of Quatermass and the Pit.
well, the poor fellow's been typecast as a foreman. I mean,
Well, yes.
Yeah, John Rennie. Yes, he
And
was.
that poor
Interestingly, he was in a sort of rep company, as it were, of both Rudolph Cartier, who used him a lot, but also of Val Guest. So he just happened to be in the two, sort of quite frequently used by both of the directors that happened to direct Quatermass, which was quite handy for him. But yeah, there's quite a few actors that pop up in all of the Quatermass.
Okay.
So Van Boolen, who is the truck driver who finds the skull, he is also Mr. Matthews, who's the first on the scene when the rocket hits the ground in the Quatermass experiment.
I gotcha. Yep.
And there's but then there's the thing that the major actors change. So Quatermass, as I'm sure you've discussed, is never the same on television. And also Fuller Love, who'd been played by Paul
Yes.
Whitson-Jones so brilliantly in the Quatermass experiment, is played by Brian Worth in Quatermass and the Pit, and as a result becomes a slightly different character. I love the character of Fuller Love, and I think Brian Worth does a great job. But I miss Paul Whitson-Jones just because I like his debonair demeanour. I think he's perhaps the most interesting thing about the 2 existing episodes of the Quatermass experiment.
There's always the fly on the screen.
Always the guy. Yes.
We still haven't come up with a name for that fly yet. I put it out to chat a couple of weeks ago. I'm just waiting to hear from somebody if they could name that fly. There isn't a prize. Just thought I'd
Right
say.
in, folks. Name the fly.
Name the fly.
name the fly.
But I think the acting is superb. You mentioned the cast. The acting is excellent in Quatermass. And let's not forget, you know, the sequences in the pit on film are really well done. Rudolph Cartier was a director of film, but a lot of the majority of those scenes are done live. And acting on screen is quite hard. I think we sometimes underestimate how good our actors are, but especially when you're doing it in the programs that we like to watch, where even the ones that aren't live are done as live, where you're having to hit marks, where you've got 3 different cameras, and you're doing it as a sort of continuous performance. But with Quatermass in particular, especially when you've watched a lot of the Doctor Who's that you've watched, they didn't. If something went completely wrong, they didn't go back and do it again. It was so what we see was what they were doing at the time. And I think the level of commitment in the performances and the sort of relaxed. Well, there's a relaxedness in that they're all very naturalistic, but there's an intensity when the drama needs it. And I think having a Canadian actor as Dr. Roney really helps, because I think Cease Linder has a sort of a vitality and it cuts through some of what could potentially be staid stuff if it was 2 very English actors sort of doing it. And I think that, and they weren't necessarily going for a Canadian. Miles Mallison was their first choice for it. And that would have been 2 very sort of English character actors talking to each other quite a lot. And I think the variation between Morell's Quatermass, Anthony Bushell's icy Colonel Breen, and Cease Linder's very vital and alive and perhaps slightly more modern Dr. Roney. And he, of course, is the one that represents hope, because he's the one that doesn't have the Martian inheritance. Also, no accident, I think, that they cast a Jewish actor in that part as the one who is different and targeted by what's essentially race hate.
Oh my word!
And I think that sort of triangle of performers is superb. But the performance for me that is the one of the best sci-fi performances of all is from a humble actor who is actually in Doctor Who 3 times and is no great shakes in any of his Doctor Who's, but I think is absolutely brilliant, and that's Richard Shaw, who plays Sladen the drill operator, who I think is absolutely phenomenal in that he carries off that possessed by alien stick and makes it really real, really emotional, really plausible, and you get the idea that it's not just the way that Duncan Lamont does it in the movie, I think, is quite poor. He just plays it as shrill madman, I'm seeing aliens, and he plays it like he's got a bit crazy. Whereas Richard Shaw plays it as though he is gripped by a primal force and is seeing a vision, as the script says, of life on the planet Mars 5 million years ago. And I think he is absolutely terrific and quite vulnerable as well. He's clearly affected by it, and I love the little relationship he has with the vicar, who he asks to come with him when he's when they go and try the same trick again in the pit. And it's little things like that that I think help it ascend to greatness. And I think Richard Shaw as Sladen the drill operator in Quatermass in the Pit is one of the great underrated sci-fi performances. And he was the first. I liked it so much. He's the first actor I ever wrote to. Oh. He wrote back a lovely letter. And so he is responsible for the terrible thing you see before you.
My father is for me. Oh dear. As I remind him frequently. Anytime he moans about it, you bought me that 10th anniversary special. I've still got it. I can get it out. Don't make me get it out because it's falling apart now. But you know what I mean. You've really covered things brilliantly, Toby.
Well, I'm sorry if I should shut up. So
No. You're on as a guest, and this is why I wanted you, because I knew we'd get some decent information. Nothing I could come up with. I mean, I could waffle on about Doctor Who, but Quatermass I can't, which is a shame because I adore it.
Can I just address something I've just said? Because this is something that I discovered. That is worth saying. When I talk about things going out live and they didn't get a chance to do it again, actually with Quatermass and the 2, there are scenes that we can see in that were not broadcast, because actually what they did, if scenes did have something go completely wrong, at the end of recording they redid them and inserted them into the tele-recording. There's definitely a scene in the pub in episode 4 of Quatermass and the 2 that was done after they'd come down from broadcast. I'm not sure there are any from Quatermass in the Pit. I'll have to check, but I don't think so, because I think they were sort of slightly more on it. But it was certainly a thing that they did. If it was a production, because Quatermass 2, they knew it was going to be repeated 3 days later. If a scene went really badly, the producer had recourse to go, right, we're going to do that again, and we'll stick it into the tele-recording. So actually, there are certain scenes that were broadcast originally from Quatermass 2 that, to all intents and purposes, don't exist anymore because we've got the retake.
So things about that. Why didn't they make tele-recordings of Quatermass Experiment after the first 2 episodes?
Well,
oh, sorry.
Oh boy.
Your friend the Fly has something to do with it. They weren't happy with the quality, but also, I would venture to say I don't think they tele-recorded the whole episodes, but they did record parts of rehearsals in order to use, and I know you'll get a flurry of people going, but they didn't use clips for the previously on because they didn't do that on episode 2. No, they didn't do it on episode 2, but I think on the rest of the episodes they had a previously on like they do on the later Quatermasses, because they've got requisition orders for certain lengths of film, and certain actors are credited on the paperwork who were in the episode before as being film-only extras, which means the only reason they'd be there is because they're on a clip from last week's episode. So strictly speaking, they probably threw those away immediately, but it's possible that there might be film elements of Quatermass Experiment in a cupboard somewhere. But in terms of they certainly didn't tele-record the whole episodes, because at the time, not long afterwards, there was talk of remounting the last 4 episodes and doing it again as a Christmas compilation, because it had been so popular, and that was on the go for quite a long time, and then just sort of fizzled out, which was a shame, because there was certainly a desire to do it again and to have it then we'd be able to see what those last episodes were like.
I'm loving this. I'm getting all sorts of information about Quatermass. I know all about the Doctor Who stuff, and now I've got something new and juicy and fresh. It's wonderful. New facts, good facts.
Better finish this book, eh?
Well, according to it was posted on Twitter. It was a horror magazine, and one of the guys from the Bergcast had written a piece about Quatermass and the Pit.
Oh, dear,
He said you were writing 2 books.
Yes, because I think I can get the TV stuff out fairly much quicker, because that's what I've been concentrating on, and that's frankly where because the Hammer films are quite well chronicled. I think I found out lots of stuff about Quatermass TV-wise that nobody knows.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to, quite frankly. Trouble is, we don't have target books and whatever just to absorb the knowledge from, which is a shame. Mind you, saying that, there was... You might be able to help me out here, actually. I got the book of the one we're doing next week, the John Mills Quatermass. The previous books, because when they brought that out, I think they must have either reprinted them, but they brought the scripts out for each one.
Yeah.
Were they ever novelised?
No.
Oh, right, okay. Good. That means I haven't missed anything.
No, they came out as scripts, I think, because they're slightly altered scripts, but yeah, they're he did those, and then they were reprinted when the Mills Quatermass came out. They reprinted them.
It certainly made a mark, because Spike Milligan spoofed it for the Goon Show and the Scarlet Capsule. Which was what that silly joke was at the start. Again, guys, I put the link. It's pinned in Discord chat. Not the best one to be introduced to the Goons on.
No, but it's the Goons. And Hancock did it as well. Hancock did one called The Horror Serial.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where he's just watched Quatermass in the Pit, and then thinks he finds something in his gun, and a bomb disposal, and a military squad comes down. One of whom is played by Laurie Webb, who is Mr. Ollis in The Three Doctors.
Oh, lovely.
So and
I got to try and find that now.
there were actually quite a few spoofs of Quatermass. There was a spoof of Bob Monkhouse, and Dennis Goodwin did a spoof of Quatermass too that featured Hugh Griffith and Monica Gray. That doesn't exist.
This, I was going to say, we need all these out on some sort of Blu-ray box set or something.
Extras.
That's one of the good things about Quatermass and the Pit. They were able to put out a beautiful Blu-ray of it.
Yeah, that was a bit of a labour of love. It was nice to get the opportunity to do that.
No.
I actually think it benefits, but again, everyone who saw the film, and it's absolutely right. We are nostalgic for the things that are most familiar to us. So my ideal version of Quatermass and the Pit is actually the edit of the BBC video that came out in the 80s, which has a few of the sort of bridging scenes or a few of the bit of extra bits and bobs that aren't entirely essential, snipped out under the supervision and suggestions of Neil and Cartier. So it had the original production, and it was actually cut together by Margot Evis, who was the sister of Michael Evis, who runs the Glastonbury Festival. But there we go, that's just a piece of trivia.
Bonus Toby trivia. Ding!
And that edit, I think, it just snips out some of the small, long, slightly extra bits that were there just because they were needed for the practicalities of the television production. Because I miss some of the texture that doesn't make it into the film, and I miss some of the performances that aren't in the film.
Eddie, did anything in this particular one completely horrify you?
Not horrify me, but it was. Toby's alluded to the kind of scope. So in the TV series, it's got the American plane that's going over London, and it then starts to kind of this global threat that's going to grow out from all of this. That never made the film, and that kind of surprises me. I thought that would have been a shoe-in, because it kind of takes the threat, doesn't localise it, and but it's. I don't know. I'm like a magpie. I've actually, through this, it was kind of like, so what do you think the difference is? And it became, well, the Hammer film's shinier. It's the ending, it's in colour, it's shiny. The special effects are slightly better. But it was just the ending, the sacrifice of Dr. Romney in the Hammer film. This is on a crane, and it's huge, and it's straight into the kind of the alien life force projection. in the TV. So he's got a chain and he throws it over. It just again, I know the scope, but it's like I said, I'm a human magpie.
That's
It's
all right.
shiny.
No, that's fair enough.
Sorry, Toby.
No, the ending is much more cinematic, and I think when they were doing the film, to go, let's go up on a crane and do that is a great cinematic.
Yeah.
It's taking the base elements and going, yeah, that's going to be much more climactic. And let's be honest, although it doesn't make quite as much sense because it doesn't, I don't think it looks quite close enough to the monsters in the hull, the devil over London, whereas in the TV version it is just one of the monsters, but it doesn't look enough like the devil. So and also the special effects shot in the film is much better than the glass shot in the TV version, which is actually very short and not massively clear, whereas some of the others, but I think the design of the Martians in the TV version is absolutely superb.
Yeah.
I think the Wild Hunt depiction,
It's better than the TV show. Absolutely.
the TV show is amazing.
Yeah.
Is that Knightsbridge Ape Man you've got behind you?
No, it's just no. Funny enough, it is a bit like it, isn't it? It's just a thing for putting hats on.
Oh, right. A head. Yes, of course. What else would you do with a hat? You'd put it on a head. Stupid, Siobhan. Stupid.
I should have brought my Martian in. I do have a Martian.
Bernard the Martian. That's a good
Nigel.
Martian. Oh, it's Nigel. Why do I keep thinking
Nigel.
it's Bernard? I seem to associate the name Bernard with everything to do with you.
That's
I
his
don't know what it
dog.
is. I think I've just got a love for the name Bernard. There's something not right there.
I think you're going to have to get another cat then.
No, I'm not getting another cat.
No.
No, that's not happening. What was I going to say? Yes. Now, each week I've tried to find a Doctor Who story that matches up with what we've been watching. So we had the Seeds of Doom for Quatermass Experiment. We had Speared from Space for Quatermass 2. I did check with Toby on this. We did the Demons for Quatermass and the Pit.
Could have had Image of the Fendal as well, which has got the pentacle in the skull.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. We haven't done either of them. So basically a third Doctor Who, if you like, and he's plucky little assistant Joe. Well, he gets some sort of strange premonition-y nonsense. Devil's End, you say? There must be something terrible. That woman I've just seen on the television is quite right. And they pop off down to Devil's End, where the Master's probably at his most iconic, if I'm honest with you.
Oh, yeah. He's just eating the scenery on that one.
It's not just that, it's the robes he's got. He just suits them.
And he suits being dressed as a vicar.
Yes, oddly.
Yes.
Fantastic.
It's the
Well,
Demons.
that's his normal outfit. You just add in the white collar and it's there.
Yeah.
Um,
The Demons, of course, has that scene where they talk about the horns. He shows them the slides, and they talk about the horns, which is again that suit. It's another great idea. The idea that our iconography of ancient evil is actually based on the biological realities of an ancient alien species, which is so clever. And the idea that the horns, the devilish horns that we associate with evil, are actually from alien visitors who, as in the Demons and in Image of the Fendal and in Quatermass, influenced our own evolution. And I quite like that as well, because that sort of puts us in our place. I think humankind is always seen as the main player in the universe.
We're a bit uppity.
In science fiction a lot, and I quite like it when somebody says, "No, you're just an experiment." And again, for 1958-59, this is really sophisticated stuff. And of course, to then have it in Doctor Who, and the Demons also has the stricken BBC film crew at the end of episode 1.
Yes.
Very reminiscent of those amazing scenes at the end of episode 5 of Pit, when the cameras and the cables and everything goes haywire.
Right.
And Hobbs Lane. Hob is one of the familiar names
For the devil.
Devil's End, and Fettsborough in Image of the Fendal.
So I'm going to move to before Toby gets in, I'm going to move to Alistair.
Right.
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. Do you remember the Demons, love? I mean, it's your
Yeah.
birthday tomorrow. I'm not going to say how old you are, but
Happy
you know.
birthday, Alistair.
Well, yes, I remember the Demons. I was old enough to see it the first time. When did it go out? Remind me.
71.
71.
So I was 10.
So you can now do the maths, boys and girls,
Oh,
to find
I
out how
can.
old he is tomorrow.
I was born in 1971, so yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, child.
Landmark, Alistair,
Child.
landmark.
You share your birthday
Yeah.
with my son, Alistair. My oldest son's birthday tomorrow.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. That's nice.
It's Adam Purcell's birthday today.
Ooh.
Which we need to say happy
Fantastic.
birthday to
Yes, I
Adam
think
as
that
Happy
well.
birthday, Adam.
It's Paul Darrow's birthday today too.
Yeah, we can't send him a message, really.
We got a Ouija board. Come on.
No, sorry. Without Derek Akora, it's just not worth it.
Have we not been discussing this very thing? Let's
Well,
go for it.
hang on a second, because in the TV version of Crash on the Pit, we had the tea leaves, the reading of the tea leaves.
And with the runes and the demons.
Yeah.
Yes.
The runes and the witchcraft and the pseudo 70s devil worship master and
Why are we talking about this? I can't remember what led into it.
Paul Darrow.
Oh, righty-ho, talking to Paul
birthdays,
Darrow.
yeah.
Right, okay, good. I think.
Yes,
Yes,
personal devil.
yeah. It's the Demons, and I'm going to quickly do the rounds on this one. Eddie, talk to me about the Demons, please.
Well, I have always associated the demons with it's taken its influence from another science fiction classic, and I always connected this with the Midwich Cuckoos. It's the whole thing around the force field that surrounds the village.
Yeah.
So I've always associated this with John Wyndham because I'm a John Wyndham fan, read the books at school. And then you just come along and then associate it back to Quatermass and the Pit. So yeah, you do kind of get the feeling that Doctor Who does take its influences from what's went before.
Anywhere.
Yes.
Anywhere.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is great.
You might be pleased to know that there's a new version of the Midwich Cuckoos. I think it's being made for Sky.
Oh, nice. Oh well. Okay, Sky Original. Okay. Sorry, I used to work for Sky, so.
Oh, okay.
No, the Sky's actually done some good science fiction. Brave New World. When I watched that recently, that was really well done. Really enjoyed that. So yeah, I'll look out for that. That'll be good. I love this. I love the Demons. I love John Pertwee, and it's on the record that Roger Delgado is the master. There's others have came, others are good, but they have never equaled and never will equal Roger Delgado. And here, he's in his element.
That dignity and gravitas.
It's like the whole series is built up to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has that element of charm in terms of
Yes.
how his persuasive skills, and not just the hypnosis thing. He basically talks the villagers around. He latches on to their greed and their basic instincts and desires. He's just, and again, it's such a shame that we didn't get him for longer. So this is one of my favorite. And again, the whole thing around the scientific explanation for superstition, and it's a brilliant episode. Now that I can actually harken it back to other scientific, other influences, and stuff, it doesn't spoil it. It's just so well played. Jo is brilliant in this as well, in terms of her loyalty, in terms of she loves the Doctor. She's got full and absolute faith in him, and she's going to jump in front of Azal and human self-sacrifice for herself. She will protect the Doctor. And it ties back to Romney in Quatermass and the Pit, because it was a human self-sacrifice that basically turns this around. Our hero doesn't do this. It's a human. It's so yeah. I'm not going to go on for too long because give others a chance. But again, it's John Pertwee, one of, if not the best Doctor, the best performance from the best Master, and one of his best performances. You can't go wrong. And 1971 was such a good year. Good things happened in 1971.
There are also tragedies as well, but we don't talk about them.
No.
What was I going to say? I was going to say something very useless. It'll come to me again at some stage. Brian,
Yes.
the Demons, love. Got it. I've just remembered.
Fantastic. It's amazing. It's the height of 1970s pseudo supernatural scientific explanations for the weird and unusual. Having the Doctor and Joe trapped in that one little town that suddenly all starts working for the cult leader, played masterfully. Yes, I'm doing that on purpose. By Delgado.
That was a subtle pun.
Yeah, I know. But yes, it was fantastic. And then having Benton actually use some of what he's supposed to have, army training. He beats the crap out of like 2 or 3 villagers, and he's the marksman, so he's shooting like the chicken on the roof and the sign and everything. Then the Doctor just, calls Bessie to him as a proof of his magical power, and
the great wizard Quatermass.
It's a remote control.
But you were raving about this on chat during the week.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved this. This was fantastic. Having the gargoyle come to life. I was so happy when that thing blew up because that costume was atrocious.
Poor old Bach.
Hey, Bach rivaled that movie Gargoyles, the made-for-TV movie.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's on Amazon. You have to watch this.
No.
Yes.
Don't you think it's really brave of its time in terms of it's a children's TV show?
Yes.
It's talking about the whole the fundamentals of religion, and the devil is actually not. It's the influences of an alien species.
Yeah, it's
so,
a
in other words,
kid's
it's
show talking about all this
religion.
stuff.
It's not just for the fact it's for kids. It's for kids in 1971.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, nowadays you wouldn't get stuff like this.
I'm surprised they didn't get, late letters by the...
Oh, they probably did.
Most of them, and again, I'm happy to be corrected here, I think most of them were complaints about the fact the BBC actually blew up the church
yes, that's
at
right.
Oldbourne. They didn't realise it was a model.
Yeah.
And then they had the spaceship in the barrow. That was fantastic. I loved having it. It was a good show for me. I enjoyed it a lot.
One criticism, Brian, would you say that the fact that Miss Hawthorne never got her own spin-off series? I love that character.
I would have loved to see her.
I beg to differ. Real-time Pictures.
Yes.
Real-time Pictures have been doing some stuff with Damaris.
Damaris. I can't remember her last name.
I was going to say Hawthorne, but that's not it.
Yeah, because I couldn't.
Heyman.
Thank you. Yes. And they're doing the White Witch of Devil's End.
Oh, nice.
Brilliant.
Nice.
Because she was quite young when she did the demons. And it's just...
I loved how they pegged Joe for the virgin sacrifice to the devil.
It had to be, didn't it?
It had to be.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Yeah, the only thing that bugs me about this one is the noise of the heat barrier. I find it incredibly irritating. Especially on early televisions, you watch it on the video and whatever.
I thought it was quite a nice sound because it sort of indicated the fact that it was
loud.
distorting. Oh, right. Well, maybe it was wrong in the mix. I don't know. Whenever I've seen it, I was never bothered by it. But the fact that it sounds like it's sort of distorting the air because they didn't have the visual effect to sort of show it distorting the air. But I always, in my mind, when I recall the scene, I can almost see the barrier there because of the sound effect. The sound effect seemed to suit the scene. That sort of fluttery, distorted, and the tar, the burnt,
little burnt bits of tar. Well,
ground to show
the line of tar that's been burned. Yeah.
And that poor van sacrificed.
Yes, but it worked. That's the point. It worked.
How many canes did the Brigadier go through for those scenes?
Oh, that's right.
Stick it in there and it's on fire.
Puzzle stick.
I get the feeling from the confidence in which he did that, it had been worked out exactly when the charge was going to go off at the end of the stick. So he knew what he was doing. He didn't bat an eyelid at that one.
And of course, classic line, chap with wings, 5 rounds rapid.
Quite so.
Can I ask a quick trivia question since we've got 2 Doctor Who experts on the panel tonight? Is Sergeant Osgood from the new series' granddad, father? Is there a link there? That's the first I'd noticed that.
I think the wheeze is if you want there to be.
I want them to be.
And
Yeah.
There is.
Yes.
I want them to be as well.
Canon accepted. This is how it is.
Just trying to think if there was anything
And I
in
think they wear the
Moffat's.
same glasses, don't they? I mean, there's, I think, there is a similarity between the two. Yeah, I think
That scientific background, and Osgood obviously knew about the Doctor's history, and I just get that Sergeant Osgood, her granddad, telling her stories about the Doctor and what happened. No, yeah, fine, I'm going with it.
I'm just trying to think of the novelisation of the Day of the Doctor, because there's an awful lot to do with Osgood in that. He concentrates on her a little bit, and I don't think it's mentioned. I think Toby's right. It's a case of if you want it, it's there.
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
I'll go one brain.
Had canon accepted.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So we enjoyed the Demons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And we loved Quatermass in the Pit. Either
Another
version.
good week, Siobhan. 2 for 2.
All right, no. Well, next week I've got a problem. Because and I need to check with you guys. Are you all right to watch all 4-hour-long episodes of Quatermass?
I can't. Not a working week.
All right. How many can you watch? Can you watch 2?
2.
All right, we'll do the first 2 episodes of Quatermass then for next Sunday.
I'm going to have to order that Blu-ray player.
I thought you had a Blu-ray player.
I do, but not for the computer.
Oh, right, okay.
Because if I'm going to watch Quatermass, I'm going to probably be doing it at work. And I need to get an external player for my computer at work.
Fair enough.
I love this though. This I remember this on broadcast, and I've been scared of hippies ever since.
I've had an expensive journey through this Quatermass thing. Because when I use my Xbox to watch DVDs and Blu-rays. Ow, cat! Claws.
Not again.
Yeah. And basically, I put the Quatermass experiment in, and it didn't like it. But I fiddled, and then it did, and I was able to watch the first 2 episodes, etc. Then it wouldn't go for Quatermass 2 at all. Didn't want to know. Luckily, I found a slightly blurry copy on YouTube.
Blu-ray.
Oh, very good. Yes, I like that Blu-ray. Yes, that's quite good. And so what I had done in the meantime is I'd ordered another set of the BBC Quatermasses, meaning I ended up with 2. They didn't work in the Xbox, so I put Planet of the Daleks in. That didn't work in the Xbox, so I've now had to buy a new Blu-ray player. It's been an expensive journey, this one. Oh dear.
But worth it.
Oh yes, well, not just that. It's it's a new Blu-ray player. Fair enough. We'll have one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair dues. I've got a Blu-ray player, but I think it's very old, and I've lost the remote control for it. I just stuck with the Xbox. I enjoyed that. So next week, the first 2 episodes of the John Mills Quatermass, 1979 Quatermass story. We will not be looking at a film version of it because all that is a cut-down version of the TV broadcast. We'll also be looking at the Blake Seven story, Horizon. This is where I need Toby's help. I have been racking my brains trying to find a Doctor Who story that would fit the John Mills Quatermass. The closest I can get is Planet of the Spiders because they share an actor.
Ray Farley.
Kick along.
Yeah. Lost Stones of Blood. I mean, it's got
Yeah, I suppose so.
yeah, it's trigger. Yeah. Krasis from the Time Monster is in the John Mills Quatermass. He's the old chemist who goes, "It's the first girl I ever lay with."
Oh my God, that's Krasis!
Yeah, Donald Eccles. Yeah.
Oh man! Oh, how wonderful! This is why I love having you on. I learn all sorts of wonderful stuff.
Maybe need to look further afield than Doctor Who. What about Manimal?
What?
Oh, yeah.
Animal? Oh, what about V? V, the miniseries.
Sorry, I was invaded by a cat just then.
Or you could watch The Pirate Captain, and is in the first 2 episodes of the Mills Quatermass. He's Simon McCorkindale's boss at the radar place, Tommy Roach.
Yes, he is.
Purchase.
You're right. And it's nice to see him giving the subtle performance after the captain.
He's great. He's really
Exactly. You know, it's a case of we've only know him through this one over the top thing.
Yeah.
Have a look at something else. Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. We got a couple there we can use. I was hoping to. I was trying to match it up with the dystopia.
Something dystopia or something about, you know, because it's about sort of ancient alien manipulation, isn't it? Really. So without giving the game away too much, about, you know, about digging up ancient evil, and it's interesting. There's not a massive amount of that in
Yeah. All right. Go on. This is good because you were just wanting to do the 2 episodes means we can extend Quatermass for another week.
Yeah.
Because I haven't thought of a replacement yet. As for Big Finish, I'm not sure. Depends what drops this week. If nothing drops this week, we'll be looking at the first Doctor set with David Bradley. I've listened to it. It's very good. Very good. Very enjoyable. And very bleak on one of them, quite frankly. Toby, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I'm so sorry for the cock up at the start. I really am. Can't seem to stop doing them. So thank you. You brought exactly what I hoped you would do. So
Yeah,
I'm over the moon.
knowledge, rapport, repartee, and so thank you, Toby.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry if I went on a bit.
No, not
No,
at
no,
all.
no,
that was
No,
perfect.
no,
No.
no, absolutely perfect. No. So thank you. Thank you, boys.
You're welcome.
That's all right. Yes. Now, Brian, I'll see you next Friday.
Yes, we have to plumb
Kill
the depths
ourselves
of
again.
the dark side.
Yeah. Well, I'm not plumbing the depths of the dark side. You can if you want to.
I will take you down with me.
Careful, Icarus. Right. So, yes, it's time to say goodbye, which is what we're going to do. Thank you all very much. Again, thank you to Toby. Let's see if I can play the correct closing titles. And we'll see you next week. Ta-ra.
You've got to fight for what you want, for all that you believe. It's right to fight for what we want, to live the way we please. As long as we have done our best, then no one can do more. And life and love and happiness are well worth fighting